Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Dave here with Go Gamers, and today we're going to be looking at this PlayStation 5 game console that's not reading any of the USBs on the game console. So let's go over to the upper cam and see exactly what's going on with this console. All right, so as you can see, we have a PS5, and this is the disk drive only version. Now, we don't need to even go under the microscope to see what's going on with this one. Front USB completely broken out. Now let's look at the two back USBs. Both of the back USB is broken out. So obviously this is going to require 3 new USB ports. Now the thing is, with this front USB port, this actually sits on the PCB board. As you guys can see, I do have that USB right here, and I have the two back port USBs over there. So this is something that we definitely can do. So what we're going to focus on first is the USB ports that sit on the motherboard. So let's get this game console down to the motherboard, and then we're going to change out those USBs, and then we're going to look at the front USB that sits on that PCB board. All right, guys, so we have it down to the motherboard. As you can see, we have our two USB ports right there. We can see inside of them. I mean, they're obviously both beat up and battered. Let's try to zoom in on them. Yeah, so we can see that looks horrible. So what we're going to need to do is wrap this thing with Kapton tape. Now, Kapton tape is very important when doing any type of flow job on a motherboard, especially if you're going to be pushing a lot of heat to the board. You want to make sure you protect all the components and everything around whatever you're pulling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some Kapton tape around this. Link to the description to the type of Kapton tape is down below. And as soon as I get this wrapped, I'm going to come right back. Go for our job. We can see we got literally all around those two USB ports. I double taped this bottom side just to make sure these components are super secure, and I double taped the Ethernet port over here because this plastic melts very, very easily. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set this thing on the side of the desk. I'm gonna take my clamp, and now these clamps right here you could get from usually any hardware store. I want to say I just got these clamps from Home Depot. We set it at the edge of this, and we use some Husky tweezers. We're going to come in, and I'm going to show you guys the technique. I'm going to come in with my heat gun. Now the type of heat gun that I use is this Wagner heat gun right here. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to turn it to the second highest setting. I'm going to turn the fan on high. You guys can see my settings is kind of blurry, but you can kind of see it. So and we're going to apply the heat from underneath, right? So let's get started on that. We're going to go over to our microscope, and we're going to get ready to get this desoldered, and then also we're going to turn on our fume extraction. All right, guys, so I got my fume extraction running. I actually have two fume extractors because I want to make sure I keep my lungs clean. And we're going to go under with our heat gun here in a little bit. I have my tweezers. Now you're going to see I'm going to pop my tweezers in like this. You see I got it in right over the edge. And right now I have my heat gun right underneath the USB port. And right now, obviously the goal is to melt the solder and to allow the USB port to lift. Now you don't want to use barely any power to lift this thing, because if you use any power, you're going to rip a trace or you're going to tear something up, and then you're just going to be adding more work onto what you already got on your hands right now. So you want to be very, very patient. And as you can see, it's starting to lift, and now we got that lifted off of the motherboard. So We can see that's what we got. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move directly over to the other USB port. I'm not going to waste any time on this one. And we're obviously going to do the same exact technique. So let's grab our heat gun, place it directly underneath it, and I got the heat gun away from the Ethernet port, obviously, because I want to still make sure I don't put any heat on the Ethernet port. Even though I got a double Kapton tape, I just know how easy it is to melt that plastic over there. And that came off really, really smooth. So that's 2 USB ports. Take it off. And now what we could do is we're going to go in. We're going to use what's known as 559 Amtech Flux. Link is down below in the description. We do sell this flux on our website now. So if you do want to get a tube of this flux, it comes with the plunger and the needle on our website, gogamers.com. All right, so I'm applying the 559 Amtech Flux, and we're going to go over to our low melt solder. This is leaded solder. Make sure you check link below in the description if you want to get yourself some of this solder. And I'm going to apply it across the entire header, all 4 anchor points. And we're going to just go back and forth and make sure we have just enough on there. Not a lot, but just enough so our new USB port will be able to go in there safe and secure. Now we're going to go over to the other USB port because we're going to hit both, because we don't want to put the USB port on the other one and have to do this one next. So let's scoot over to this one. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply some 559 Amtech Flux across the header like how I did last time. And now we're going to go around applying our solder all across the header. We want to make sure we get it all those pockets, just to make sure we have a good clean connection. Excellent. So that looks good. And now the next step is obviously grabbing the new USB ports, which is up here. We're going to grab these new USB ports. Let's open these up. Also, if you are looking for these USB ports, they sell them on Amazon. So you can get them over there pretty cheap. And I get mine directly from a distributor, just because obviously I get a huge discount. But for the people at home or any repair shop that's not doing a high value of them, I would just say get them off Amazon. All right, so let's go back over to our microscope, and there's no need to apply no more Amtech Flux, just because we still have enough on there. So now here is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. So I'm going to go right at the edge. Hopefully you guys can see this. I'm trying to look at the screen at the same time. It's not really focusing, but you can see back here, I'm holding it with my smaller tweezer, right? And I'm holding it right at the edge, because you can't go too far in when you're holding these. Now you can also go from the bottom as well, but the thing is, it makes it a little bit more harder when dropping it into place. So it's just good just to go from up top. Just go slightly in. So you're going to go just a little bit in, and now we're going to heat it up. And we're going to wait until this solder starts to flow. Once the solder flows, we're going to drop the new USB port on the motherboard. All right, so solder is starting to liquefy. It's starting to flow. And I dropped it directly into place. You see, as soon as it started to flow, I brought the USB port over. I dropped it straight into place. I didn't want to keep the heat on that USB port for too long because you don't want to obviously melt anything or tear up anything on the new USB port. So what I'm kind of doing right now is I'm kind of just doing a eye check, just making sure the USB port is in place, and it does look to be completely in place. So now we're going to go over to the other one. All right, so let's get the other USB port put into place. So I'm now heating up this USB port, and let's allow the solder to melt and liquefy. So that looks to be all the way in. So solder looks to be settling. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of just go around this USB port. I use my phone. I just use my phone's light. I go around it, make sure everything looks good. I can see all the connections is solid, is level. Make sure none of the plastic is melted around it before we take off this Kapton tape. So let's turn this light back on. Let's take off this Kapton tape, and now we're going to work on cleaning this board. So as you can see, I kind of just went around it with my toothbrush. I was dipping my toothbrush in some 99% IPA. We got it all cleaned up. Let me turn off this fume extraction. I use toothbrush, Q-tips, and I just go around and I just thoroughly just clean up everything. And I already put that 99% IPA on the motherboard, and I want to say I got linked in the description for the type of IPA that I use as well. And I just kind of just clean up top on the bottom, and now as you can see, everything looks good. All the components are intact. Both USB ports are completely in place, and everything looks to be aligned. From what I can see, everything looks aligned. Everything looks like it's sat on the motherboard correctly. I'm going to take my toothbrush and I'm going to come around. I'm just a very thorough person when I work on these game consoles, and I'm just going to kind of just brush it off a little bit, right? So now that is perfectly cleaned, and now the next thing we could be able to do is work on that third USB port on the PCB board. So let's get started on that. All right, so you can see we got off the front faceplate. Now there's 3 screws that hold down this PCB board. So let's get these 3 screws taken off real quick, and we can be able to see exactly what's going on with this. All right, so as we can see, this is what we have right here. We have our regular USB port, and we have our Type-C USB port. So as you can see, this USB port is different from the other one because the connections, this one actually sends forward, obviously. So this one, we have a different USB port that we use to repair this issue. And it will be this USB port right here that we're going to use in order to repair this issue. All right, so we have the small PCB board on my Hackle OmniVice PCB board holder. This thing is amazing. Link below is down below in the description. It's very expensive. It is $80, but by far out of the 20 USB PCB board holders I've ever used, this by far is the best one. It's good quality. It's sturdy. As you can see, I'm bouncing this thing around. Doesn't move, and it's fully adjustable as well, which is what I love. So let's go ahead and now attack this and get this taken off of the board. So here's how we're going to do this. All right, guys, so let's get started. Turn on fume extraction now. Got my heat gun up and running. We're going to do that same technique. We're going to put this a little bit further over the edge. I wrapped it in Kapton tape, as you guys can see. And this will give you guys a clear view. This is why I didn't want to go under the microscope this go around, because this gives you a clear view on exactly how I'm able to heat it up quickly from underneath the board. All right. So quick and simple, as you can see, we was able to quickly take that off. So like I said, I didn't want to do under the microscope this time because I want you guys to see what it looks like when I look at it, when I'm putting the heat gun underneath the USB port. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use our 559 MTech flux, and we're going to come in and apply it across the entire header. Now let's use our Pacco solder iron. We'll come in and get new solder all throughout the entire header. All right, so look at that. That looks good. So now we are ready to drop our new USB port on here. As you can see, here is our new USB port. And we're going to do the same technique as we did with the last USB ports. I'm just making sure I got it the right way, which it is the right way. And what we're going to do is we're going to use our tweezers. And coming in from using this one is a little bit easier because we can go from the bottom one a lot easier because we don't, since it's at an angle, we don't need to go from up top. So it's a lot easier dropping it on there. So let's take our heat gun. Let's get this solder flow. And we're going to come from up top and drop this USB port directly over there. So I'm going to wait until that solder starts to flow and melt. All right, so there we go. Solder has been fully flowed and melted. We got the USB port to drop fully in there. And that's how quick that is. Crap! Just burnt my leg. This is why you gotta always be careful with a heat gun. Oh man, I hate when that happens, man. Especially on my hand, if you do a lot of solder work, especially if you've been doing it as long as me, like you constantly burn your hand. But that looks good. So we got brand new USB port in there, and now it's time for the cleanup process. So let's take off this Kapton tape. All right, so now I'm going in with my toothbrush. I dipped my toothbrush in some 99% IPA. Coming in, we're kind of just cleaning this whole area. And now let's go in with our Q-tip and try to dry it up real nice. So we got the new USB port put in place, got it all cleaned up. Everything looks perfectly fine. And now we can be able to get this PS5 put back together and see if we now have a working game console with some USB ports. So let's get that tested out. All right, guys, so I got it fully assembled again. So let's go over to the upper cam. I'll show you guys what I got right here. Obviously, these PS5s are huge, so it's kind of hard to see. But as you can see, it is on the repair bench. And we have the TV on. So now what I'm going to do is power on the PS5. I'm going to allow it to turn on, and we're going to go in with our USB and see if we get power from all three USB ports now. So I'm going to be using a PS4 controller to be able to test this. For the people that don't know, you can use PS4 controllers on PS5s. So let's allow this to boot up and to the dash, and we're going to test this out. Hey guys, so I got the controller plugged in, and it connected right away to the back USB port. So let's log into this thing, log into user 1. So we know that one works for sure. Now I'm going to test out the other one. I'm going to plug in my meter right here. This obviously turns on, that lets me know these ports work. So I'm going to plug it in the other back one. And I do have power coming from that port. So now I'm going to test the final front USB port, see if we have power coming from that. And I'll show you guys right here. This is what I'm using. We can see that the screen is on. It is powered on, meaning that that USB port is functioning properly. So all three of them are good. Never seen someone break every single USB port on their PS5 until now. So we did have a successful repair with this one. If this video did help you guys out, please let me know down below in the description, in the comments, I mean, and also leave a like if this video did help you out, if you are, and also if you did enjoy it as well. If you are brand new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. But besides that, I hope to see you guys on the next video, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side. See ya.